Okay, so this might be a long video for us because we got to cover a good long story arc for Wolverine that takes place in Wolverine issues number 111 up to 114. So a four-part story arc. And really, after this story arc, we jump back over to X-Men and Uncanny X-Men as we continue to work our way up to Operation Zero Tolerance. But getting into the opening pages of issue number 111 for Wolverine, we pick up with Wolverine coming back home after being away for a little while in Wolverine comics. And so with him coming back home, we really see Wolverine just being welcomed by the different members of the X-Men. So Jean Grey, Cyclops, Storm, Beast, the usual roster, right? Now for Wolverine, it's also him kind of arriving back right when you have Bobby Drake officially leaving the team. And the reason why, because for Bobby Drake, he went undercover to learn more about Graydon Creed, because Graydon Creed, the son to Sabretooth and also Mystique, was running for president. And when it came to Graydon Creed, he hated mutants a lot. And so with the possibility of him becoming a president was really scary for the mutant race. Now, for Bobby Drake, his father had decided to stand up for mutants because his son is, of course, a mutant. But with him doing that, you had Graydon Creed sending a few guys to severely beat up on Bobby Drake's father. And so with his father still recovering, is Bobby saying you know what? It's time for me to step away from the X-Men to help take care of my father, but to also be there for my mother. Now, when it comes to Bobby Drake and also Wolverine, the two characters do have a lot of respect for one another. Now, the thing is, these two characters were never close, but like I said, they did have a lot of respect for one another. But the thing is, for Bobby Drake, he grew up at the school of Charles Xavier. But for Logan, as we all know, he had a life prior to coming to the school of Charles Xavier. And really, it's Bobby Drake pointing that out, saying at least you had a life away from the school before you came here. Now, with Bobby saying that, it's also Logan realizing that there's a possibility that he should try to live a life away from the X-Men. Still be an X-Men, yes, but try to be a normal person for once and live a normal life out there in the world. But after that, you did have Logan receive a package that came from Landau, Luckman, and Lake. Now, that's a company we have talked about in the past. They are an interdimensional holding company / law firm that usually deals with Logan's assets. Now, with that being said, for Logan, there's two things inside the package: a holotape, but also a small box. Now, the holotape is a message left behind by Zoe Colladine, one of the employees of the company. And it's her right now telling Logan all these different streams of reality or big things that happen down the road, they all lead back over to Logan. But also there's somebody right now working behind the scenes. It's her informing Logan that dark times are coming very soon for him particularly. But she also says he needs to watch over this random box, this random artifact that she's handing over to him. Now, of course, for Logan, he has no idea what this artifact's all about. But she says for right now, that's okay. But in the future, you'll learn more about the actual artifact. Now, we do see Storm ask Wolverine to join her and Bobby Drake in her greenhouse. Now, with that happening, it's really more Storm handing Iceman this special flower. Now, this flower is a mutation flower that really cannot survive out of the environment that Storm had built inside his greenhouse, but she's handing it over to Bobby Drake. Now, for me personally, it does kind of seem like it's Storm saying this is a go away present, yes, but the flower basically represents the idea that for them, the X-Men, they really can't survive out there on their own without the help of their friends and family around them. Well, except for Logan, who has a healing factor. Now, to continue the whole celebration for Bobby Drake leaving the X-Men for a short period of time, you had the X-Men go out for a few drinks. Now, for Wolverine, he did ask Sam Guthrie, better known as Cannonball, to watch over his old motorcycle, which of course for Sam, he did. But you do have Sam and Logan take the bike into town to meet up with the rest of the X-Men. Now, after a few drinks for Logan, he needs some time by himself. And the reason why, because for Logan, over the years of being just Logan, also being Wolverine, the dude had lost a lot of people very close to him. Of course, loved ones, best friends, and the list continues on. But recently in Wolverine comics, he had lost a lot of friends at the Princess Bar, a bar he used to go to back in Madripoor. And so for Logan right now, it's just him trying to, have that alone time to at least be able to get a tad bit tipsy to kind of believe that he can see his dead friends near him still watching over him. Now, for Wolverine, he does go over to the office of Charles Xavier. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, Charles Xavier got arrested. He turned himself in because when it came to Charles, he was just Onslaught not too long ago in X-Men Comics. But for Wolverine, he kind of felt like he's at fault for the idea of Charles Xavier turning into Onslaught. And the reason why, because when it came to Charles Xavier, as we all know, when he had shut down the mind of Magneto, he had absorbed the darker things Magneto's mind into his mind. And of course, it led into the creation of Onslaught. But the reason why Charles had to shut down the mind of Magneto, because Magneto was ripping off the adamantium off the bones of Wolverine. And so Wolverine feels like if he didn't just attack Magneto without a plan, then most likely none of that would have happened. But either way, right now, for Charles, he's locked up. And for Wolverine, it's him wanting to come to Charles, needing answers for his own personal life. Now, you do have Wolverine go into the danger room. Now, with him going into the danger room, it's really more of Logan just trying to, relax a tad bit and everything. Except when he does walk into the danger room, it's really more of Logan now being confronted by, this demon. Now, for this demon, it wants to make a deal with Logan. The idea of saying, listen, if you give me your soul, I give you the one thing you want back so badly. And of course, he's talking about Mariko, the woman that Wolverine lost recently. He was supposed to marry. Now, for Logan, he knows this right here is not a good deal. And so you have Logan go out of the way to attack the demon. Now, once you do have Logan get rid of the demon, you then have Stick arrive. Now, the reason why Stick is there to get rid of the dead body of Mariko that was coming back to life, but also trying to pull Logan down with her. Now, for Stick, he has been in the last few storylines, including Elektra as well, and really more Stick and Elektra trying to keep Wolverine on the right path. And the reason why I'm saying that, because for Wolverine, around this time in Marvel Comics, as we all know, he had lost his adamantium. And we had learned that when it came to Wolverine's mutation, he was supposed to turn into this wild beast. But when it came to the adamantium being bonded to his body, it stopped that process. But with Magneto, of course, pulling the adamantium off his bones, the process was able to continue. And so you had Elektra and also Stick trying to make sure that Wolverine does not turn into a wild beast, that Wolverine use his mind to stay like a man and not like a beast. And so when it comes to Stick, it's him telling Logan that that demon is somebody from a long time ago who's right now trying to take you off the right path. Basically saying trying to allow you to turn yourself into a wild beast. Now, to get into the closing parts of the first chapter, you do have Logan inform Sam Guthrie, Cannonball here, that he'll be also leaving the X-Men, but not permanently. It's really more of him trying to live a life away from the X-Men, but still being part of the X-Men team if they need him. And so with that being said, you did have Logan tell Sam that he can have his old bike because Logan bought a new bike. And then you have Logan tell Sam to tell Jean Grey that once Logan does find somewhere to live and has a good number for her to call, he'll then call Jean Grey with that number. And so now it's Logan trying to begin a new life, away from the X-Men. And so as we dive into the second chapter of the storyline, we're really picking up with Logan arriving at East Village, Lower Manhattan. Now, when he does arrive there, he does run into two characters. That will be Kirsten and Clive. Now, Kirsten and Clive are being harassed currently by some random thugs in that area, and you have Logan go out of his way to actually help them out. Now, with Logan doing that, you then have Kirsten in return offer Logan a place to stay. She says that right now she is a super at this apartment complex, and there's this one apartment right now that's currently vacant. And so if Logan wants it, he can have it. And so just like that is Logan right now trying to build a new life for himself away from the X-Men. Now, while you had Logan trying to make that deal, there was that mime there just they're watching everything go down. And as the mime goes away, out of nowhere, you have the mime go into the basement of this building. And the reason why, because some spirit grabbed his props to pull him down there. So once the mime gets down there, we do see this evil spirit begin the process of possessing the mime to most likely go after Logan. Now, at the end of the last chapter, you did have Logan tell Sam that once he does find a place to stay for a good period of time, he will call up Jean Grey to kind of give her a number to call, but also tell her like where he's at currently. And so we see Logan doing that. But like I said, this is not Logan trying to leave the X-Men. It's just him trying to live a life away from the X-Men for a good period of time, but still be a member of the team if they need their help. And matter of fact, this part right here does take place before we jump into X-Men issue number 62. Now, for Logan, he does try to, live this normal life. He even tries to just walk around the area, get used to the area, again, trying to make a brand new life for himself. But when it comes to nighttime and he tries to sleep, well, he can't sleep. And the reason why, because all his past mistakes, they just keep playing his mind over and over and over again. And so unfortunately, it makes things hard for him when it comes to him trying to just get some rest at the nighttime. But you didn't have Logan look out the window. When he does, he sees that creepy mind who we've seen recently just get possessed by some spirit, just going down the street. Now, Logan realized the expression on the mind's face is completely different from earlier. Now, you do have Logan head over to the restaurant that Kirsten is currently working at. And so while she's working there, she does mention that Logan should get a job. And for Logan, he kind of agrees on the idea that he should get a job. And so you do have Logan head over to this construction site. Now, when it comes to Logan heading over there, it's really more of him kind of finding out that it's not really a job where, you're going to earn an income. Instead, it's really more Logan finding out that this construction site is just people in the area working to build us some apartments in the area. And once those apartments have been built, those people who worked on the sites will get a reduced amount on their apartment. Now, you also have Logan run into Helen. Now, when it comes to Helen, she's in charge of the entire site. And so once you do have Logan kind of get the chance to meet her and talk to her, you do have the two being able to kick things off with one another. Now, not in the way at first where it seems like, they might become a couple, but more of like for Helen, she does respect Logan to allow him the chance to work on the site. And so for Logan and also Helen, they head over to Logan's home. Now, when they walk over to his apartment, the two thugs we saw earlier, they begin to destroy the bike that Logan just bought at the end of the last chapter. And so for Logan, he goes to attack the thugs. Now, for Helen, she also helps out. Now, for the thugs, they have been possessed by some type of spirit. And so, unfortunately, they're not really acting like themselves. But in the middle of the battle, you do have Logan go out of his way to pop out his claws. But he realized he can't really use his claws in front of Helen. And so he put the claws away. But of course, he's now bleeding pretty badly all over his hands. And so once you have Helen and Logan take care of the thugs and they go back to normal, for Helen, she realized that the man's hand is bleeding, but for him, he realized that she is a good fighter. But she does not want to share how in the world she learned those different fighting moves. She just walks away. Now, for Logan, when he does go inside his apartment, you have Logan be confronted by, well, the mind. And so with the mind being there, we get the idea whatever spirit that had possessed the mind is truly ready to go after Logan as we get into the next chapter. And so as we get into the third chapter of the storyline, we're really picking up now with Logan being confronted by the mime. Now, here's the thing. The mime is just juggling all these different weapons, but also the box that was given to Logan at the very beginning of this storyline. So you do have Logan right now trying his best to retrieve the box back from the mime. Now, this is where you have Logan remember where the box actually came from. And so, as you all know, we then get a flashback. And with this flashback, we technically learn here that for Logan, back in the 1930s, he was in Japan, and now he was drunk in Japan. But while being drunk in Japan, he ran into this old man and his student. Now, these two guys were chasing after the box they had just dropped. But those two guys were being followed by someone from the Japanese army who felt like the old man and his student were showing disrespect. And so you had Logan step in as a way to protect the old man and his student as well. But you then have the captain arrive. Now, when the captain does arrive, he even offers Logan to join the Japanese army, saying, "Let me fill the void within your mind, your body, and your soul." And of course, Logan says no. But also, you had the old man with the student also offer Logan a chance to learn from him as well. But again, Logan says no. And so that is when you have Logan remember where the box came from. But back in the present day, we still see Logan fighting against the mime. And you have the mime just get a hand broken. But again, the mind's being possessed by a spirit. So the spirit does not really care the idea the hand got broken because it's not his body. It's the body he's currently using right now as a way to fight against Logan. Now, for Helen, we do see her thinking of the possibility of going back to where Logan was at to kind of explain some things to him. And so we see her kind of heading back over there, but also she wants to make sure that he is okay because she saw that his hand was bleeding earlier. Except when she does arrive at the apartment of Logan, well, Storm and Jean Grey also arrive as well. And so for Helen, she kind of gets this idea that there's a possibility there's something, maybe going on between Jean Grey and Storm. And so she walks away when she sees them heading over to his apartment. But when you do have Jean Grey and also Storm walk into the apartment, they realize that Logan right now is in the middle of a battle. So of course, they want to help him out. Now, once you do have Jean Grey and Storm enter the apartment, you then had the spirit really go after Jean Grey. Now, really, you had Jean Grey try to clear the mind of the mime, but once she did that, the spirit went to her mind instead. Now, you had the spirit use Jean Grey's body as a way to communicate with Logan, to tell Logan, like, you should know who I am. And the thing is, for Logan, he begins to kind of figure out like who it could possibly be. And the reason why, because he does pick up on two scents. The first one being Jean Grey and the other one being, well, the spirit that's currently possessing her. Now, the spirit tries to harm the body of Jean Grey, but you do have Storm being able to stop the spirit from hurting Jean Grey. Now, once you have Storm do that, you then have spirit leave. Now, for Logan, he wants to follow the spirit to figure out who it is that's trying to attack him, but to also get their hands on the box, but to also hurt everyone around him as well. But you do have the spirit go out of its way to possess the body of Helen. Now, with that being done, you then have the spirit use the body of Helen as a way to get away, far away from Logan. But the last page of the third chapter, we jump over to Damien Hellstorm. Now, when it comes to Damien Hellstorm, as we all know, he is the son of Satan. But right now, for Damien Hellstorm, the emerald he used is trying to warn him about the box, the same box that Logan is currently holding on to. Now, as we dive into the fourth chapter, I really thought, like, with Damien Hellstorm being there, he'll play a major role in this storyline, and technically he doesn't, because all he does is that when you have Logan try to hunt down a spirit that has possessed Helen, but for Logan, he has no idea about that yet. But once you do have Logan run into Damien, it's just Damien telling Logan, like, hey, listen, that box, you got to protect it no matter what. And that's really it. And then he disappears. Except right after he does disappear, that is when you have Lady Deathstrike appear. Now, for Lady Deathstrike, she's technically here for a good reason. But we then switch over to Storm and Jean Grey. And the reason why, because when he came to Wolverine, he left the box behind with them, right? Except the box is now lighting up out of nowhere. And so for Storm and Jean Grey, they're kind of wondering, like, what in the world could be inside the box? And so you then have the two begin to open up the actual box. Now, we do switch back over to Logan. When it comes to Logan, he is fighting against Lady Deathstrike. Now, when it comes to their battle, we have to remember that the main reason why she hates Logan, because when it came to Logan, it was a whole idea of the adamantium process, the bonding process, because it was her father who had created the actual bonding process, but unfortunately, the adamantium went to Logan. And so for Lady Deathstrike, she feels like her family owns the idea of adamantium that was on the bones for Logan. But around this time in Marvel Comics, Logan does not have the adamantium thanks to Magneto. And so she's here for a completely different reason. Now, with this spirit right now holding on to the body of Helen, you have it go over to this hidden cabinet. And the reason why, because earlier we saw that she was a great fighter. And so for the spirit, it realized that Helen is a strong woman, but wants to know why. And so when it comes to the spirit, it makes Helen open up that hidden cabinet to discover her past. But like earlier, we have to wait until the end of the chapter to figure out what that past was. Now, as we do jump back over to Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike, we do learn like why she's there for. And of course, she's there for the box, because apparently the box does belong to her family. And for Logan, he did say earlier that he does recognize that some of the symbols on the box goes to Lady Deathstrike's family. And so you have Logan say, listen, I can't give you the box just yet. And the reason why, because Zoe Colladine gave it to me to hold on to, because her interdimensional bosses told her to give it to me. And so for Lady Deathstrike, she also heard of Zoe as well. And so you have the two characters call a truce to kind of work together to figure out what is so special about that box. As we do get back over to Storm and Jean Grey, who still have the box, we don't get the chance to learn what's inside of it. But for Storm and Jean Grey, they do realize whoever does possess the box will have access to resources untold. Now, you also do have Helen come back with all these military weapons to fight against Jean Grey and Storm. But of course, with these two having powers, they were able to easily overpower, well, Helen. But you then have Jean Grey go into the mind of Helen to fight against the spirit that's currently possessing her. And so when it comes to Jean Grey, this right here is her battlefield. And so even though the spirit apparently has a strong history in the idea of being in the astral plane and being able to possess other people, for Jean Grey here, she was able to easily overpower him and win to free Helen. And once again, the spirit does leave. Now, when it comes to Helen's past, I'm not going to go to sit down and try to explain her actual past, because unfortunately, she does not become a very important character in the life of Wolverine. Just know that she has some military background, and that's really it. But the very end of this book is really important. And the reason why, because you do have a spirit come back to possess somebody else. except this time you do have the spirit to possess the body of Lady Deathstrike. And with the spirit being able to possess the body of Lady Deathstrike, you didn't have spirit leave, but it's basically telling us that it wants to use the body of Lady Deathstrike to help it find a better host, a better body. Now, for Logan, he does remember who the spirit was. It's Ogun, his old master, the person who trained him the ways of being a man. But the book ends on that note, and the reason why, because after this, for Wolverine, we get into Operation Zero Tolerance. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Guys, see y'all next time. Later.